You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
I'm really happy to be here. It's a pleasure for me.
Fonte with a scooping header.
I would like to make the most of with this opportunity.
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0. Buffon shot. Oh my word.
He ran around a bit like Bambi on ice. Really very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans. My name is Matt Markstone. I'm the host of the show. No matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thank you for making the show part of your day. I hope that you enjoy it. If it sounds a bit different to you this week because you've been listening for a while, it's because I'm sitting in a hotel room in a tiny Danish-themed village a little ways from my home. I'm here on work business, on an accreditation visit for the school here, but at least they know how to say the word Højbjerg, although they don't understand what I'm saying when I say it. So it's quite entertaining in that respect. However, it is quite frustrating because there are lots and lots of bars, vineyards, wineries, things of that nature, and we're basically working from 7 a.m. till 8:30 or 9 p.m. With a dinner break in there sometime. So not a lot of time to do or enjoy the amenities, but I am in a nice hotel. It is quite late tonight. I am trying to do this before I fall asleep. And last night as I was editing, I think I fell asleep on the keyboard. So hopefully I didn't erase anything. Hopefully the conversation all flows, but if it doesn't, I'm going to blame it on that. But this week, of course, we drew with Tottenham. Turned it around a little bit compared to what we saw when we played them on Boxing Day, but still not enough to get us out of the relegation zone. And there we sit. And with Swansea winning today, it just means the bottom of the table gets tighter, and we're going to have to really work hard to get ourselves out of it. And of course, Tottenham had chances to go on and win that match. We definitely had chances to go on and win that match. But I think overall, we have to be happy with the performance and hope that continues to move forward. And to talk about all of that with me this week is Alan Gunn. You can find him on Twitter at @A_Gunzy. He writes and is involved with St. Mary's Musings. So you can follow St. Mary's Musings on Twitter. The links are in the show notes, both the Alan and St. Mary's Musings Twitter handle. But we're going to talk about the Tottenham match, and we're going to jump to that right now, right after I tell you to make sure that you check out the We Are Southampton page on Instagram for matchday edits, polls, competitions, and more. Be sure to check out the We Are Southampton page on Instagram. Matt, who runs the page, has been a guest on this show. He did the logo for the show and has been a huge help in getting this thing going. So make sure you check out the We Are Southampton page on Instagram. You will not be disappointed. And now let's jump to my interview with Alan Gunn talking about the Spurs match. I hope you enjoy it. We'd like to welcome back to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, Alan Gunn. You can find him on Twitter at @A_Gunzy, and he works with St. Mary's Musings. You've probably read his tweets. But Alan, last time I talked to you, you were in the United States. And when I was setting this up with you, I assumed you were in the United States. Turns out I was messaging you like at 2:00 in the morning, and I apologize for that. But pleasure to have you back and be able to talk a little bit about the team and the Spurs match. And final whistle has literally just sounded. And we're gonna knock this out because we got stuff going on. But welcome back to the show, and thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it, and I'm excited to talk to you again.
Thank you for having me back. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So now that I found out you were actually in the UK, what's obviously some things have changed with you and in your work and things like that since last time. So catch me up a little bit, catch the listeners up. Where are you living and what are you doing now that you're back in the UK?
Still in Manchester, which is where I've been for really the last 5 years, I would say, and then doing as much as I can at St. Mary's Musings. Every other projects are taking up a lot of time, so it's when I can get to it, I do as much as I can, and I know Jake really appreciates that. And for the most part, I just do the tweets That's what I like doing. Like having fun over there. And as usual, I don't take it serious because day I take any sport serious is the day I'm probably going to stop watching sports because otherwise it wouldn't be fun.
It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. So you're also doing some basketball stuff, right? Covering some sort of basketball something?
Yeah. I'll plug us in my school college up in the Northwest here in Preston. Just doing some content for them, whether it's video, written, photography things, just kind of building a nice big portfolio and enjoying it. Spending a lot of time in vans, going all over and eating a lot of McDonald's and can't be in a more healthier position, I guess.
What's the weather like right now?
It's been raining all day. Like I said to you before, if we went down 2 or 3-0, I would have been, and there was a break in the rain, I would have run out to the store because low on food at the minute. And that's the next task, is to get some food in me after this.
All right.
So it's raining.
It was raining in Southampton too. I just was wondering, you guys, too much rain for me. It's sunny, but it's like 40 degrees right now, which is cold for us, but we'll be okay. We'll be all right.
You need a jacket outside, I guess, don't you?
Yeah, I can't wear shorts, which is the big, that's how you know it's cold, if I'm wearing pants, but
yeah.
Anyway, nothing like, what I was looking at on the TV here, watching the boys play. And, honestly,
it's been miserable the last few days.
Has
miserable. Oh yeah, it's been miserable. It's cold. Yesterday, last night, when we could see on the way home, I think we could see probably 2 feet in front of us with the fog coming in.
Oh man, that's no good. That's dangerous and everything else.
Yeah.
But I guess in terms of the team, I guess you guys they'd be used to playing in that kind of stuff. I guess it seems to rain quite most weeks, while they're playing. I'm talking about the soccer team, not our football team, not the basketball. If you guys play basketball in the rain, you guys are way harder than, most people think.
Yeah.
But, getting to watch the match today, I guess coming into it, what were you expecting Southampton to get anything from the match?
To be honest, I really wasn't. I mean, most people, if one of my good friends who I go to matches with for the most part, he was actually going to watch ice hockey tonight to avoid watching today. It's just kind of one of those, if we got something from it, it was just going to be, a really good day out. And if we didn't, then we kind of expected that result. But it's nice to see us finally pull something out against I thought Spurs were a little bit flat. They could have done a lot more with us, but I thought we were finally set up for a full 90 minutes, which has not been the case in recent performances. So, full credit to the guys for getting stuck in and staying with the plan for 90 minutes, whatever it was.
Yeah, that was the big surprise, really, is seeing us have it go for 90 minutes and not at moments we sat too deep, but it seems like we corrected ourselves and kept pushing forward and kept trying to create chances. And obviously none of them fell for us, but I thought the performance was good. And I'm always a little hesitant to say, good performance and I'm happy with that because it doesn't ever seem to carry over. And I think that's the big thing is we need to see that against Watford or against Crystal Palace or against these other teams we should be beating. It seems like we're more willing or more, I don't know, whatever it is we're more likely, I guess, to step it up against a Tottenham or an Arsenal or a Manchester United than we are against, like a Crystal Palace or something like that.
Yeah, it always seems to be the case in recent history from what I can remember, bar that shelling we took at Liverpool and then obviously against Spurs in December. We've always set up well against bigger teams. I don't know. We just tend to play down to a different level if we're playing Watford, Crystal Palace, etc., which is frustrating because we've got, there's no way that we've gone from being an 8th place team, to being in a relegation battle in however many months it's been since last year.
Right.
That's probably the most frustrating part because we've not really changed the team. And I still think that we've got a better squad than a majority of the others. It's just the performances. We've just not, like we've been saying, we've just never put together 90 minutes. And if you don't put together 90 minutes, then you're susceptible to dropping points like we have done or having to come from behind like we've done in previous games to try and salvage a point. And that's obviously not going to keep us up if we keep doing it for too much longer. Right.
And I don't know. We'll talk about it a little bit more as we go. But let's start here with the lineup. When you saw the team sheet come out, McCarthy, Cedric, Stevens, Hoyt, and Bertrand across the back. And then the midfield of Lamina, Romeu, Ward-Prowse, Tadic, and Højbjerg, and then Gabbiadini alone up top. It looked something like a 4-5-1 or something like that in terms of, it looked like we were going to play back and really set up and be defensive, but also really attempt to control the midfield. And I thought we did a pretty good job of that today. I thought that I thought the guys, especially Romeu, Lamina, and Højbjerg all played really, really well. I thought Tadic created some chances. Ward-Prowse, once again, really earning his spot, probably more than anybody else in the team right now, really locking down that role and earning his place in the team. So overall, I wasn't super shocked. I guess it's kind of along the lines of what you would expect, but no Long in the lineup, which I think was a little shocking. But he must have suffered some sort of injury. And
he's got the flu, I think.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, so one of the newspaper guys from the Daily Echo was saying that he had the flu, and it seems to be going through the country at the minute.
Sure.
Because Hugo Lloris and Christian Eriksen were both out with the flu, according.
Yeah, I did see that. I had the flu, but they didn't get it from me.
Yeah. I think it was interesting, obviously not having Long today, because we spend so much time criticizing Long, and I thought in the second half we could have used him in not a scoring role, but in just getting behind the defense, because they were playing pretty high in terms of their back line, and we had plenty of chances to go over the top of them. We just didn't have any legs to get behind them.
Yeah.
Because obviously Tadic tends to not play the full 90, as he did today, and if he can start doing that consistently, that'd be good to have him for 90 minutes. But yeah, with the lineup, I thought it was pretty much what we'd expect. I thought Long would have been in, but it's pretty secretive that he had the flu, I guess.
Sure.
Really nice to see that little tripod there of Lamina, Romeu, and Højbjerg in the midfield. I've been hoping for Lamina to start for the longest time now. Obviously, people have said that he's had fitness issues with his ankle. At this point in the season, I'm pretty sure everyone's injured, so it's nice to see him come into the starting lineup. I thought the trio of them, that tripod there in the middle with Lamina, Romeu, and Højbjerg, they really locked in, and we're a solid defensive unit. And I kind of hope we stick to that, because that was, I thought that really set us up for a good success today. And then obviously having McCarthy, and that's given the lads a lot of confidence playing in front of him. So as long as we stick to that, I think the only thing that was surprising was, like we said, obviously Long having the flu, and that seems to be going around the whole league, really. The game could have used him today. I think in the second half we had chances over the top, but we just didn't have the legs at the end. And overall, happy with the lineup today.
Yeah, I was really happy with what happened today, and with how the team set out, and kind of how they took the game to Spurs initially. I was really, really happy to see us create a chance within 30 seconds. Somewhat of a weak effort from Gabbiadini, but he looked like he was really wanting to get at it and wanting to make an impact and have an impact. So I thought that was pretty good. And like you said, I really wasn't surprised with a lot of the how we set up today. I thought that was probably what we needed to do to try to control the midfield and keep ourselves in the game. It was just at that point, it was just, were we going to be able to do that the entire game, or were we going to tire out come the second half, which I think has been our worry thus far. As it seems our second half performances have not really lived up to maybe what we would expect. But I would say that start of the game, through the first 5 minutes, we were really, we were taking it to them, and we were controlling the ball, and they didn't have much of it. And even through the majority of the first half, you hardly mentioned Son from Spurs, and so he's been a guy that's been really on fire recently. And so to keep him quiet, really, I think through just not allowing them to have the ball much, I thought was good.
Son's definitely one of my players I like watching on other teams, just because he's very fluid on the ball, and he just does so much. And that's kind of just, I hope we find our own Son. In a way, because he's definitely the driving force of that team, and you add that type of quality into your team, and it's always going to change. And to keep him quiet all day for the most part, was a huge plus on our end.
Yeah, and I don't want to take anything away from what Southampton did, but I definitely think that Spurs missed Eriksen being out today.
They definitely did. Yeah, they definitely had a bit of a flat performance, judging based on what they did to us before. Not that they were going to come in and do the exact same thing, but it's when a team's playing well. I can't remember, they put past where they just played last weekend. But they're on a roll, and they're trying to stay in that that race for Champions League next year as well. So they're playing for just as much as we are, just at the better end of the table. So for them to come out and for us to really set the tone, I think that kind of put them on our back foot, because like you said, for the first 15 minutes, I thought we were I remember saying we need to take advantage of this, otherwise we tend to let teams back in, and if we can get something now, then if we do let them back in, hopefully we can recover and won't not get punished too much for missing a chance, whatever. But I thought that first goal we got, even though it was an own goal, I thought that was, deserved on our end.
Yeah. Even just before that, we had a couple chances where I think Ward-Prowse and Tadic both put back-to-back balls across the face of the area and, across the 6-yard box, and just nobody could get on the end of it. And it seemed like that was a theme for us all day, is we were getting balls in, even at the end of the game. We got a couple in, and we just we didn't have that final touch. And that's a little bit frustrating, but also encouraging that we were actually being able to do that today. And even, like you said, the goal that we scored, came from, Tadic playing Bertrand in, Bertrand putting it across, and Sanchez just, trying to get something on it and not let it go across the area and only getting a toe on it and putting it in his own net. So, at that point, I thought we deserved it. I thought that was a fair indication of how the game had gone. And then
obviously it's just the mental lapse defensively. We still struggle, I think, in the air. That's something that when Virgil van Dijk was at his best, something that he was, brought to the team was his ability to, he would have been Mark and Kane at that point, and instead it's Stevens, and he beat Stevens, and that it's, an uncontested header, but it's one that, 9 out of 10 times Kane's going to put it in the back of the net because he's a prolific scorer. And that's the one area that we're still struggling with, and we've struggled with it, all year, it seems, or for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, I mean, do you think now it's fair to really criticize Stevens? It just doesn't seem like that's part of his game. It doesn't seem like he is a big aerial, strong defender. It's just not what he does well. So, I mean, it's frustrating, but do you think it's fair for us to continuously kind of say, well, he should have done better there?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, you can criticize all you want. I mean, the only way he's going to get better is if he, finds a way to do it on the train. I mean, because we don't really have anyone at the club like that that's going to help him learn how to manage that type of player in the box. I think we brought Wesley Hoots in hopes that he would take over that role, and whether it was just a switch in the box or whatever, I'd have to go back and look at the goal again, but whether it was supposed to be, Wesley on that play, for instance, because I mean, that's kind of what we thought he was going to be coming in to do. Everyone was so high speaking on, Wesley, saying that he was going to be take over Van Dijk's role of control in the air. And it just, to criticize Stevens, I mean, it's tough, but it's happened more than enough times. It happened with Carroll when we played West Ham previously. It's happened when we've played, when Llorente was over at Swansea. So it's a common theme, and it's something that he's either got to figure out on his own, or that's always just going to be one of his deficiencies, and we're just going to have to live with it. I mean, because every player's got one. Like Tadic doesn't have a right foot.
On that line of talking about Jack Stevens, I heard an interview from Stevens, and they talked to him about, his inability to put the header away at one end for a goal. And then they questioned him about the disappointment of the set piece defending, and he's just said, like, look, that's on me. Kane was my man. I lost him, and that's on me.
It's good. At least he's owned up. He's still mid-20s. He's still young, so the fact that he's able to take responsibility is a huge thing. He knows where his big deficiency is, and I think that's clearly evident. He should have scored that header, to be honest. That was a free header in the box. So that was unfortunate on his part to not score from there, but then to let in a goal at the other end. It's one of them. He knows where his deficiency is, but it's good for him that he owns up takes responsibility for that goal, because I mean it does come down if that's his man.
Yeah, and I just wish he would do just a little bit better there. Like I wish, but then I think that's a hard thing for to try and correct. Whether it's instinct or just not being quite aware or not wanting to commit a foul, whatever it is. It's just like you gotta get over that.
Something.
Yeah.
Gotta do something. It meant he's done nothing, and obviously Kane is he's got 99 Premier League goals for a reason, and more goals than I can even remember to count.
Yeah.
Over his entire, across his career, various competitions. And, there's a reason why he's good. He knows how to play off a defender. And sometimes I think, Stevens makes himself susceptible to a mistake every now and again, like everyone out there, not just him. So we're not just pinpointing it on him. But I think in that instance, it's tough. That's his man, and his man's gone free and scored from that. And, to be honest, I don't know if they would have scored had they not scored then, because they didn't really, a lot of their efforts, I thought we kept them at distance, and defensively I thought we played a really strong match. just unfortunate that one mistake we're going to get punished for, and that's the Southampton way.
Like you said, that seems to be where we're at this point. The way things are going for us, one mistake will lead to us being punished almost every time. Like it seems like where we're at, when other teams get a chance, if from our mistake, they're going to put it away because things just don't seem to be rolling our way right now. And it's really unfortunate, but it is kind of the truth. And it's just something we're going to have to work towards and try to eliminate those mistakes, and then, that doesn't happen. And there were a couple of other instances, or I think before that, where I want to say it was Hoot alone in the box with Ali in front of him and Kane behind him, and Stevens was kind of gone. And that kind of, the communication's not quite there with those two yet. But yeah, like you said, the fact that we kept most of their shots, from a distance. I think they had more attempts than we did, but, I want to say that we had more attempts on target. And, I think that says a little bit about how we were able to defend.
Yeah, I think at one point the commentator said, I don't really listen to the commentator much because they just talk garbage anyway, but I think at one point he said that they didn't have might have just been the one shot on target in the second half, and we'd played, we were on like 75, 80 minutes, or 75 to 80 minutes. So like kind of in that area, defensively, I thought we kept a team that's been pretty much in form all season, pretty much at bay, and that's good positive take, but like one of the questions I saw come through on the Twitter feed, that it's we just have to build on it now. We can't just do it one game now and then fall off against whoever it is Brighton we play next. Can't do it. Just gotta keep going from here. Gotta build on it, and we've yet to build on it. We didn't build on the draw at United, which I thought, no offense to us, it was a good draw, but I thought we were very fortunate that Lukaku left after just 9 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we took advantage of that at least. Not that, that was the only reason we got a draw from it, but it's one of those. We've done it against Spurs, we've done it against United. Now it's just going out and doing it against other teams that, we should be beaten, because we've not really played well against Palace or Brighton or any of these teams that, last year we would have fancied ourselves over in an instant. But this year, it's just praying we get something from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, we were able to limit their attempts on target. Only 2 attempts on target the whole game for them. They had 17 attempts overall. They did have 60% possession, but I don't know. I thought it looked maybe a little bit more even than that. In terms of, and it seemed like for portions of the game, nobody really had control. The ball was bouncing around and we were trying, it was counterattack after counterattack both ways. And then it kind of never really leaving that center third of the park. But overall,
it's definitely, that's true. I agree with that 100%. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I think it's overall, I mean, like we were talking about, totally happy with that. And the key is then building on it. And, against Watford in the cup, we'll see what happens. They have a new manager. I don't know who it is, but I know I read that they appointed someone. And then, we have Brighton and West Brom, and those are going to be 2 huge games. Those are, we need to get out of the relegation zone right now. There's no hanging around. It's do it now or maybe don't do it, I think we only have something like 15 matches left. I'll say 14 because the last match of the year is against Manchester City, and that's not what you want. Last year we couldn't.
Hopefully by then they've won the title, so they just tried out like a traffic cone and a box.
Yeah, well, the fact that they don't have the unbeaten record to go for anymore, that I'm glad that's out of the way, because otherwise they might put out somebody full strength. But I don't want it to come down to that. And last year we couldn't even get it done against Stoke on the last day of the season, let alone City this time. But I guess the next thing to really talk about was anything, going into halftime, somewhat disappointed that we conceded so quickly after taking the lead. But going into halftime, I was happy where we were. I think any of us would take a draw all day long against Tottenham, but I was worried that what happened last week at Watford would happen again, and what's happened in previous weeks, where the second half was really our undoing, that Pochettino was going to be able to do something to, no pun intended, but Spurs side on and get him to take the lead against us and really take it to us in the second half. But how are you feeling going into halftime, and were you worried at all about that?
Oh yeah, that's always been the big worry, I think, especially this year. We just, like we said, we've either been behind at halftime, so we're having to fight back. We just never put together a full minutes that we can be completely happy with, I think. So going into halftime, I thought we were, well deserved to be, at 1-1. I thought it's unfortunate that we conceded so quickly, but that's what happens when you make a mistake against a good team. They'll take advantage of it. So fair enough. They brought it back. Happy with that though. But it was just like you say, it's just going into halftime. It's just if the other manager makes an adjustment, which I don't think Pochettino really did today. There's no like Silva did at Watford the other week. There's just nothing that Pochettino did that seemed to. He didn't seem like anything he did anything in the second half. It seemed more of the same in the second half in terms of just a midfield battle sort of thing with the occasional chance at either end. So I was pretty happy with the first half.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually interesting to see us make a change before them for once. Usually it's
at the right time as well.
Yeah, usually it's much too late. And I mean, you could argue that maybe Davis comes on a little bit sooner, but I thought Lamina was having a good match and doing some of the more physical stuff. And that midfield battle, Dembele is fun to watch. He can dribble, he's strong, he does all kinds of stuff, but I don't like playing against him. I'll watch him as a neutral, but I don't like it when he plays against us.
It's like Ander Herrera, same thing.
Yeah,
he can't stand Ander Herrera.
He should have been booked, I thought, several times before that, but managed to keep getting away with it. And then all of a sudden, it seems like cards were coming for everybody. My notes for the second half were basically Stevens booked, Sissoko booked, Romeu booked. Like it's just booked. Before finally Dembele gets booked for whatever number of foul he committed. But I don't know, coming out of the second half, like you said, it didn't really seem like anybody changed anything. I thought large parts of the second half were forgettable. I don't think it was a bad game. I just think because it was kind of bouncing around and doing, not really any clear chances for anybody, that it was really kind of hard to pinpoint what was going on. But I was really happy that we didn't do what we've done so often and where we just sat super, super deep and allowed Tottenham to come onto us, because I think had we done that, we would have conceded. They would have scored and we would have left St. Mary's with 0 points, and everybody would have been saying this is the exact same thing we've seen over and over and over again.
Absolutely. And I think it's a step in the right direction, but there's still a long way to go in terms of the overall progress of the team, because I think there was maybe about, I don't think where it was, just after the hour mark. Must have been after Buffal came on, because who Buffal come on for now?
Højbjerg came off, and then Buffal went on 65th minute.
Yeah, so that was kind of, we sat back a little bit then, and I thought we were going to fall into that trap, of getting stuck in and that's no fault of our own. That's not sometimes just a management issue. Sometimes that's a formation issue, where like we've brought someone on where it's been working and plugged them in somewhere. It was the right move. I thought it was a smart move on our part to actually make a change there. But I thought it was like right after that, we sort of sat back for maybe 3 minutes, but then we finally opened up and we were just sat in the midfield. And like we said, I mean, it was an unforgettable half against Spurs. It was probably a good thing, because that means they probably not scored and we probably not done anything, So I would take an unforgettable second half versus a forgettable half against Watford. So that wasn't the bad thing, to have an unforgettable half, meaning we took care of business. But I thought the game was there for the taking if we had wanted it, because I didn't think Spurs were particularly, astute at the back.
Right.
We definitely took advantage, as you saw in the first half. And I thought, I don't want to say we could have won the game, but I thought we could have done a little bit more despite not having a lot of possession. But there were times that we could have broken out from our defense and we just, like we've done all year, we've just given the ball away, which has been, the case all year. But like you said, unforgettable half, which is not a bad thing since we came away with a point. Right.
Well, sometimes it seems like when we were breaking with Højbjerg or Tadic, and neither of those two have the legs to do that. That's not, we were missing Long. And I think that really points to the idea that we need another striker. The fact that Long is out with the flu or illness, and that means we have Gabbiadini and no one else. We had to bring in the kid Obafemi to play the last kind of few minutes. And I'm all for giving the youth a chance, but the fact that we are bringing in some 17-year-old kid who, was last playing for the under 18s, that's a little bit worrisome. I think that points to some cracks in the squad that we have.
Yeah, we definitely don't have the depth in the squad. There's definitely a difference between having depth in the squad and having quality depth. And I think that gets confused a lot of times with our bench. Because to be honest, our bench, if you look at it, if we've got Buffal starting, if we've got Lamina starting, if you look at our bench, it's very thin. That's kind of the area we need to, not the bench, we need to bring in people who are going to help us, plug them, buy and plug type players right now. Like we can't wait for them to be good 6 months from now when we're, playing Forest in the championship or whatever. So it's
right.
Like, it's one of them. We've got to do something now. It's good for Obafemi to come in. He got himself in a dangerous position there. It's unfortunate that he didn't, get a quality foot on the ball.
Yeah.
I thought it was I think that's a cross with Tatch's right foot as well. So it's like, can't believe that, but one of them. I felt like I was a little overly critical saying, over him, he doesn't have a left foot, because it's a valid question, judging on if you watch back on the replay, when the ball comes across, you see he's going with his right foot,
right,
trying to swing the crossbar, and that's obviously
that's much more difficult than.
It's definitely the harder option than just sticking your left foot out and maybe getting a side foot on it. That's kind of what I thought would have happened at that instance. That's kind of, as a spectator, it's so much easier to say versus when it's happening. You've just been thrown on.
Yeah.
As a 17-year-old in your first debut for the first team, and it's like one of them. It's so much easier to say as a spectator, but he definitely tried to pick the tougher option there of swinging across with his right foot.
Yeah. I mean, you've just been thrown on. It's raining, and you're running through the box after a cross across the edge of the 6-yard area with Jan Vertonghen. That's welcome to the Premier League, and I'm surprised he didn't wind up on the ground.
I'm surprised he didn't wind up with some brown shorts as well.
Seriously. Luckily we were in the dark colors today, so it's okay.
Yeah.
I did want to go back to one of the things you mentioned with some of the substitutions. And it seems like when the manager makes substitutions, sometimes it requires it's not a like for like substitution. It requires a reshuffling of the players on the pitch to move to new positions. And sometimes I think that's where we fall apart, is you've been playing some way for 75 or 80, or sometimes in our instance, 86 or 87 minutes. And then, all of a sudden you have 3 new players playing a new position and the communication's not quite there. And sometimes that worries me, but I also at the same point think, you're professional athletes. When we go out and play just in the park, you kind of just got to play everywhere and you have to adapt. And granted, we're not nearly facing the opposition that they are, but you just hope that they would be able to make those in-game adjustments. But maybe they're just not able to do that right now.
I don't know if that's come down to the player personnel or if that's managers. I think it's probably a combination of both. Because me and my friend always talk about it, like Pellegrino, he can set up a team, like he sets us up well in the first half, because we always tend to play well in the first half. It's just once the team makes a change or once we make a change, it's kind of when that drop off comes. And I think it's a little bit, player management, and then it's also managerial, and it's finding a balance between the two. Because I think we try and change at times a little too much, and that's no fault of our own. Sometimes it's the situation that calls for it. Whereas most of the times we're calling for Buffal to come on, or someone like Gabbiadini to come on. I think at that instance I would have left it, because there's 63 minutes, 60 when he came on, 65 minutes, and he could have left it 5 minutes and seen where we were. Granted, I think Pierre-Emile Højbjerg was getting a little tired, but I think overall, he could have let it ride for maybe a couple more minutes. Because I didn't think. It's just nothing. It wasn't calling for any injection at the time. I thought we were playing well enough, but like you said, once we make that change, you do see a bit of a drop. And I think I don't know if it's the players not trusting what the manager is changing at the time, or if we're just not ready to make that change. But I think a lot of teams, once we make a change, are all over it, and they put us on the back foot immediately. And I think after we made that first change, we were pressed back for 4 or 5 minutes. And it's one of those. It's just, I think that comes down to both player and manager making the right decision. And I think we're still yet to see Pellegrino make concrete decisions that are, fully backed. It doesn't have to be backed by the fans, because he's the one making the decision at the end of the day. But I guess just from a spectator standpoint, it's just kind of one of those where we've yet to see him make the decision that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you have, 32,000 people or whatever it is in the stadium, and every single person goes like, what is that? What is he thinking? When everybody's doing that, then it makes you kind of go like, I don't know. But if it's the one guy, there's always that one friend who's like, no, like, super theoretical formation here. We could totally do this. Like this is this. And it's like, no, stop talking. You don't make sense. But it is worrisome sometimes, the changes that he does make. But one thing I thought that was really, really good today was, even when there were some moments where it was pretty hectic in our own box, Lamela had a chance to kind of, put Spurs ahead, but we had everybody kind of throwing their body in the way. Stevens was doing it. Romeu was doing it. There were a couple instances where I think Romeu just refused to allow Dele Alli to turn, in the box, and kind of pushed him back and forced him backwards. And I thought that those situations, instead of taking the easy thing, physically and mentally to do, which is just step off, allow him to turn and hopefully he doesn't squeeze it by you or anything else. It's the idea that we were fighting the entire 90 minutes, and it seems like we gave that little bit extra effort. And I thought that was commendable on the part of everybody on the pitch, in terms of how we played today.
Yeah, it's definitely a complete difference and a total commitment, I think, from all the guys out there, especially defensively. I mean, bar that one mistake, I didn't think Jack Stevens played, bad at all. I thought he had, he made some really key blocks. Like you said, the one, who was that on? Was that on Sanchez or Dembele on the left post? And it was, that was, one of the best blocks, obviously in terms of keeping it at 1-1. So I think we were more committed across the board. I think we've seen a lot of matches where Ryan Bertrand's a little bit more frustrated and, visibly frustrated. But today I thought he was, he seemed more himself. He was up the pitch a lot farther. And obviously his cross led to the goal. And then who else? I thought Cedric played pretty well. He had one kind of instance where he's obviously not got height, but it was one where he had a bit of trouble. And we're always going to have trouble. That's just sport in general. You're always going to have like a difficult situation where you might not win the ball because it's just no one's perfect. But I think overall, across the board, defensively, it's just a much more committed performance than we've seen previously. It seems everyone bought into what we were trying to do. And people were making that extra effort. Like you said, Romeu had some, chances or some plays right at the edge of our box where, it was like a 2-on-1 or, and he just came away with the ball. He just put that extra effort in. And that's kind of, I think as fans, I think that's what we want to see. We'd rather see us go down fighting than, with our tail between our legs, just accepting that we're going to go out there and be defeated. So it's nice to see a full commitment from the team.
Yeah, and even with just the 1 point today, obviously it doesn't get us out of the relegation zone. We have big games coming up against Brighton and West Brom, but a win against Brighton could see us shoot up into 11th or 12th place. And then I think the reality is that anybody in the bottom half of the table could go down. It seems like Swansea is running away with being absolutely atrocious and assuredly going down almost, but everybody else is kind of, it's up for grabs, and Watford are in danger just as much as we are, even though they sit in 10th place. So I think it's going to be a real grind all year to stay in the Premier League. And, it's going to take, I think, more performances like this. And we have a question from Portland Saints, who's at PDX_Saints. And he says, if Saints had played like this during the long stretch of drop points, would everyone still want MP to go? Is it too early to say we've turned a corner in terms of playing style? And then he kind of added on because people were commenting underneath it. And he says, I guess what I was really wondering is, will consistent performances like the one we saw today or on Sunday, by the time you hear this, will that be enough for MP to win back the fans? So I guess two questions there. I don't think it's enough to say we've turned the corner in terms of playing style, but do you think that he can win back the fans if we continue to play like this?
Well, we'll start with the first one. It's definitely, we've not turned the corner yet. I mean, we have to do it for more than just one game, which is we've seen in previously. We can play just as good against United and then come out and lay an egg against Crystal Palace. And it's one of those same thing. We just got to string together, I want to see this type of performance 5 matches from now, 6 matches from now, consistently through. Can he win back the fans? It's going to be hard. I don't think he's going to win him back. I don't think he's going to win back a majority of the fans. I think a majority of the fans already have, a noose around him. They've already got him at the guillotine, and they're just ready to pull the cable, which is unfortunate because he seems like, a nice enough guy, but it's just sports, especially when there's a lot of money on the line, is a results business, and he's not getting results. And that's the only way you're going to win back fans. We can get all the 0-0 draws, all the 1-1 draws we want, but if we're not consistently getting 3 points, which at this point is what's going to keep us up, then he's not going to win back fans. So I think he can win back fans that are on the fence. I've always been a fan that's kind of on the fence. I don't think he's particularly, same thing with Puel. I didn't think, Puel did anything wrong, get himself sacked, other than just, some boring football, I guess. But I think Maurizio Pellegrino has more against him because he's dropped far more points, and we're actually worse off in terms of our goal scoring record. So I just think it's going to be tough for him. If he wants to win back the fans, it's certainly plausible, but he's going to need to do it over a stretch of 5 matches. He can't just do it in in one match, you can't expect us to all come flying back going, yeah, we got a point against Spurs or we got a point against United. Because I've never been one, once today happens, today's happened. We put it in the past and we have to focus on the next game. I'm a big New England Patriot fan, as you know. And obviously Bill Belichick is one of the best at getting his teams, thinking about the next game and not what happened previously and just focusing on one game at a time. And at this point, he's just got to ignore the outside noise and just get us prepared for the next one. And that's all we can do. We can only go one at a time. And hopefully in 5 games from now, we're in a better position than we are now. And it's going to take an effort like it was today to get there. I think we need to get healthy. I think it'd be good. I've been criticizing Long probably since day one. No one likes to take the mick out of Shane Long more than me because it's easy to do. But, today I thought, we could have used him. He's shown, certainly against Watford and Fulham that he can be a valuable contributor, not just scoring wise, but on, creating chances. So I think we need to hopefully get everyone fit and maybe add to the squad a little bit, just to boost confidence and inject some new blood, because there's really not been any fresh injection of new faces into the squad. And not that we need to, heavily invest, but obviously losing someone like Van Dijk's quality is going to need to not be replaced, but, you're going to need to at least bring someone in that can give us that, because I don't think Bednarek's going to really give us much. And if Stevens goes down, or Yoshida goes down, we're one injury away from being in a real pickle. And that's the reason why I think we need to invest, but I can go into that later.
Sure. Yeah. No, the risk is there, 1 injury or 2 injuries, and we're playing a back three of, either one of Yoshida, Stevens, and Hoot, and then Bednarak and Gardos, so, that's not ideal. But I guess, we won't go on too much longer here, but you mentioned adding to the squad. We've been linked with, Carrillo, I think is how you say his name, out of Monaco. We had a bid turned down, reportedly. There was some contact, I guess, with, Spartak Moscow over Quincy Promes or however you say it. But looking at the squad, do you think the center forward area and the attack and, one of the winger areas is where we should be investing? Or do you think maybe defense, or where do you think we need to add that quality to the squad?
I think we definitely need someone in attack. We've seen that Charlie Austin he's always had a knack of getting injured. So it'd be good to bring in someone in that area, because I think Gabbiadini showed that if he gets a run of games, he'll be okay, I think. But we can't just rely on that. We need to inject in someone who's going to be able to score right away, because at the minute we're still not scoring goals. We got one today, scored twice against Watford, but we still have just an atrocious goal scoring record, and that's what's going to keep us up right now is goals, and we can't rely on James Ward-Prowse to score goals. So I think our key areas would be that center forward position. I think that would help Gabbiadini get more game time, because he wouldn't be the main striker. I think he would probably play, sit just behind whoever the striker is. I would love to see that. We've not seen that yet, and that would be kind of good to see. I think winger would be a good addition. If we get this Quincy guy, if he ends up there, then that's, it'd be, I don't really know much about him, because I'm not staying up or whatever I'm not surfing the web to watch Russian football. But
we were talking earlier about giving your computer some sort of disease trying to watch a stream. That's a good way to do it there,
Yeah, watching Russian football. Yeah, exactly. I think defensively we could use some help. Not saying that Yoshida's bad or that Stevens is bad, but obviously there's clearly, people out there in the market that are better than them. We've got money to burn. The only bad thing with having money to burn is, especially in this day of age of media, is that everyone knows that we've just got 75 million from Liverpool. So it wasn't, I think of the word now, it wasn't, it was probably expected that we were going to get a bid of, 20 million, I think I saw, euros turned down, because obviously they know we've got money, so they're going to try and get the most out of us. I think that's probably going to be, I know it's January 21, and we would have loved to have seen some injection at the start of the month, but at Southampton we're always going to leave it late, and I think that's probably been the hardest issue, is trying to not overspend, and that's hard to do when people know that you've got money to spend, is getting a decent price without having to overpay. But I think if we want to bring in a player that's going to help us now, we're going to have to overpay a little bit more than probably what we would want. And that's just the nature of having money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've got it.
Well, hopefully Les Reed is better in the second half of the transfer window than we have been most of the year in the second half of games. So hopefully maybe he's just got his two halves swapped, and we'll be sitting here by the time this comes out, we'll have a new player and he'll be suiting up for the FA Cup match next week. But
that would be good. But like I said, it's at this point we can't buy a player that's going to help us 6 months from now. He's got to help us now. It's got to be someone that we can, whoever it is, they've got to be someone coming in ready to contribute, because at this point we are backs against the wall. I mean, it's great to get a point. It's great to see us, go off 21 points or whatever we were on. And so whoever we bring in is going to have to hit the ground running like Gabbiadini did last year, and keep it going. Obviously, Gabbiadini sputtered out towards the end of the year, and it's got to be someone that's got to have that first team quality ready to come in, contribute, and vie for a starting 11 spot right off the plane.
Well, if I remember correctly, I think it was the game against Tottenham where he got hurt early on in the match, and then at White Hart Lane, and then when he came back, he just kind of wasn't the same. Like the goal scoring stopped then, and hopefully you kind of wish he would have gotten a goal today just to kind of put him back on the right track. But oh well.
I think he played a decent enough match. We're starting to find him a little bit more. I thought a lot of times our balls were played into the box for a little bit too far behind the person attacking. And that comes maybe with just him not having enough game time with the guys that are out there. I know they're in training. They see him in training all the time, and they should know where he likes the ball. But, clearly we were in attack. We were just either, an inch behind or, inch too far forward. And that makes all the difference when you're trying to score a goal, judging by what Stevens did missing the target.
Yeah, man, that's going to be the one that I think we're going to think about. We're going to think about
that punch.
Yeah. But like we said, I think the performance today, it was good. I think or I should say the performance on Sunday, I thought was good. I think hopefully if we take something moving forward from this, then I think it's a win, and I think it would be great, but we have to see that. And
that's the main thing. We got to see it.
It's tough to get my hopes up and say that we're going to see it, because we haven't seen it very often, so.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's one of them. It's just we've done it today, or on Sunday, and can we do it in the FA Cup, or can we do it in the league? It's just, can we do it the next game? We've not, like you said, we've just not seen it consistently enough, and that's the hard part with having a young team. We've got young players, and young players are always, because every team I like basically is a young team, and that's what they struggle for, is goals normally and consistency. That's what you get when you buy a young player. You buy inconsistency, because that's what veteran brings you. That's what someone that's, that 26, 27, 28, 29 range and older obviously is going to bring you, is hopefully consistency. But when you buy young players, when you have a young team, that's what you get, is inconsistency. And can our young guys grow up in the next, handful of months? Because we're going to need them to if we want to stay in this division. Because that's what's going to keep us up right now, is consistency. We can't change what's happened in the first half of the year, and then the first half of this month, or nearly all this month. But can we find some consistency and start turning in regular results, like grab a point here, grab 3 points there, because that's what's going to get us out of the bottom three.
Yeah. Get out and get separated from it by less than a draw, then you're back in it. That's what we need. We need 6 points or so between us and in 18th place. I'd be happy with that. But right now, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we're going to get there.
I mean, it's like one of them. It's like right now, looking at the table, it's like, you want to find 3 teams that are worse off than you are. Swansea are obviously struggling still, but they're only 6 points off the bottom. So it's like, they can still find a way if they. I don't think they are going to. So if you think Swansea's down, who are 2 other teams? And it's Stoke. Just got a new manager, so we're one of the last teams down at the bottom not to change their manager, and it's tough to see. You just have to find 2 teams that are going to falter, and hopefully Stokes win the other day against, who they beat, Huddersfield.
I think so, yeah, 2-0, right?
Yeah, so if they turn the corner, that's going to be, we're right behind them right now. If they're turning the corner, we've got to turn the corner. So I guess to that question of going back from the fan is, have we turned the corner? Better darn hope we're starting to turn the corner at least.
Yeah, otherwise Stoke
could, find their way out, or climb their way out. And that's kind of where we just need to hang on to these teams right there above us.
Yeah. If Stoke turns a corner and we don't, then we're all aboard the SS Championship, And then I will basically have to give my computer some sort of disease to be able to watch the games. But
just listen to them.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing. Blackmore does a good job on the web player, so I can do that.
I've had to listen to him a few times. Never a bad thing.
All right. Well, I think that kind of does it. As you and I were talking about, we're kind of both on time crunches, and I think we've covered it all. And hopefully, we haven't just kind of rambled on too much. But anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
I'm just hoping that we can start rolling these performances over. That's the big thing. It's just like I said, if we can start rolling these over, we'll be okay. But that's what we have to do. It's just hoping we see it next week, because I thought today we were well deserved for a point. We could have had more if we wanted it. Could have been there for the taking. We had few chances to pinch a goal at the end, but overall, good point. And I'm just hoping we see more of it, more commitment like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Game against Watford next week in the FA Cup, and then followed up midweek with Brighton, and then West Brom the following week. And I think those two, especially in the Premier League, are huge. And I think that
really crucial games.
I woke up this morning to Marco Silva, or Sunday morning, woke up to Marco Silva being sacked by Watford. And immediately in my head, I'm thinking, if I get on the rest of Twitter, not just that notification, but if I look, and I'm almost certain people are going to be calling for him to come in. But then you read the story or the club statement, it doesn't paint him in a very good light. And we've been burned by a manager like that before, who had his head turned and was gone. And it seems to happen to our players quite a bit too. So, not sure that's where we want to go with the manager if we do decide to make a change. But like I said before, I don't think we're making a change with the manager. I'm pretty sure the board is going to stick with Pellegrino.
We're stuck with him.
Yeah,
we're married to him right now, and the divorce court is not open.
No, so I guess just get behind it and hope for the best.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for your time once again, and we'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on again. Enjoyed it.
My pleasure. That does it for this episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed it. Special thanks to my guest, Alan Gunn. You can find him on Twitter at @A_Gunzy. You can follow St. Mary's Musings at St. Mary's Musings. As always, this podcast is partnered with The Saints Report. For all your Southampton FC news and needs, be sure to follow The Saints Report on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And while you're there, be sure to check out this show on Twitter and Instagram at SFCDELL_IVERY, and at facebook.com/SFCDelivery. There is no underscore in the Facebook address. Additionally, if you haven't done so yet, you can subscribe to this show on iTunes, Stitcher, Acast, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, or wherever else you get your podcast by simply searching Delivery and hitting subscribe, or by simply following one of the links in the show notes. If you have been listening for some time and you're interested in providing some feedback, you can do so by leaving an Apple Podcast review or getting in contact with us on any of the social media channels previously mentioned. All music for this week's episode comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end of show credits that you are listening to now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. Links are in the show notes if you are interested in checking them out. We'll be back next week with another episode. I'll be home from my Danish village journey, and hopefully we'll be on to the 5th round of the FA Cup. Until then, remember that together, we march on.